Rand Paul and Marco Rubio went at it over military spending. Let's watch.
The family is the most important institution in
Nevertheless,
society.
it's not
and yes,
very
I do want to rebuild the
Marco.
American military.
How's it conservative?
I know that Rand is a committed isolationist. I'm not. I believe the world is a stronger and a better place when the United States is the strongest military power in the world.
Marco, how is it conservative? How is it conservative to add $1 trillion expenditure for the federal government that you're not paying for? How is it conservative? How is it conservative to add $1 trillion in military expenditures? You cannot be a conservative if you're going to keep promoting new programs that you're not going to pay for.
I may respond more quickly. Very quickly, Senator. We can't even have an economy if we're not safe. There are radical jihadists in the Middle East beheading people and crucifying Christians. A radical Shia cleric in Iran trying to get a nuclear weapon. The Chinese taking over the South China Sea. Yes, I believe the world is a safer... No, I don't believe. I know that the world is a safer and better place when America is the strongest military power in the world.
Marco, I don't think we're any safer. I do not think we are any safer from bankruptcy court. As we go further and further into debt, we become less and less safe. This is the most important thing we're going to talk about tonight. Can you be a conservative and be liberal on military spending? Can you be for unlimited military spending and say, oh, I'm going to make the country safe? No, we need a safe country. But you know, we spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined. I want a strong national defense, but I don't want us to be bankrupt.
Well, and there is the middle ground.
All right, so that was a great back and forth. Obviously, needless to say, on the substance, Rand Paul was 100% correct, and he knocked it out of the park. And I even like the argument that he made where he is kind of inherently jabbing liberals, where he's like, you know, you can't be a conservative and say you want unlimited spending on programs you can't afford. You can't, even if it's the military, you can't be a liberal on that. So he's framing it as if you want to spend a lot on military, you're a liberal. Now, that's not true, but I still think it was a good argument, and it's an argument that maybe might help him in a conservative primary where he's still being principled in his anti-war stance, but he's framing it as if it's okay if you're a conservative, guys, and you don't want to go into stupid wars. So, you know, you could be with me on this. And also, he's not wrong either. So it also is a conservative position to say strong national defense and to do the stupid blank checks that they do. But then there is an argument, a conservative argument for non-interventionism. It's paleoconservatism. It was a common position, especially before the neocons went in there and wrecked everything. You know, being conservative and being anti-war, those things were not mutually exclusive. You can be that, and Rand Paul's providing that alternative. Now, again, on the substance, Rand Paul won there. But in terms of the takeaway from the Republican base, unfortunately, I got to say it's a split decision, and I think being a little too kind to Rand Paul when I say that, because judging by the applause in the room, most people there were with Marco Rubio, even though he was saying utter nonsense. I take no pleasure in saying that. I wish that wasn't the case. I think Rand Paul's a trillion times better than Marco Rubio. But you got to call it out for what it is, man. You know, this is an argument where Rand can make it resonate to a certain extent in the Republican base, but isn't enough where he's going to get the majority. And it's a fair point, as people have pointed out to me before. They say, well, the room is not indicative of, you know, the rest of the Republican-based voters, so you really don't know if the applause in the room is something that you should weigh heavily. Fair enough. But still, overall, I'm going to say Rand is right on the substance, and in terms of how it's going to play out in the minds of your average Republican voter, I'm going to call that a split decision. But now, let me break it down further. So, I like how Rubio just tried to smear Rand right off the bat, where Rubio said, Rand is a committed isolationist. This is the new, you know, phrase that people use, the new term people use, when they want to not address the substance of your points, but they want to dismiss you on foreign policy. They just say, you're an isolationist. Or another one that people use, pacifist. I can't tell you how many people just, you know, smugly assert that you're some sort of pacifist, and therefore they don't have to listen to your anti-American foreign policy nonsense. It's not true. There's roughly 4 isolationists in America and roughly 4 pacifists in America. I mean, those are very, very fringe positions. But what is not a fringe position is what Rand Paul actually is. non-interventionist. There's a difference. See, isolationist has a negative connotation to it, and it implies that, you don't want to be involved in any circumstance ever. And foreign policy, interventions, militaristic or otherwise, are off the table by definition, and you never consider it. And even isolationist even has some economic implications in the word. It has such a negative connotation to it that people assume that, you don't want to converse with any other nations. There's all types of crazy shit attached to it. It's a loaded term. But what is non-interventionism? Non-interventionism is just the idea that we should only use U.S. military force in self-defense. That's it. And that's what I like to call a common sense position that the overwhelming majority of the American people are in favor of, or would be in favor of, if somebody argued for it effectively. So it's just, Rubio, it's a disingenuous, smug prick of an argument. Saying, isolationist, and then he moves on. And then notice, his core argument, you heard it. What did Rubio say? Jihadists, Iran, China, and the audience like, we're scared, bro. We're scared. We like you better. We think you're going to protect us more by doing more military interventions. All right. We're scared, bro. It's so funny that the conservatives like to think of themselves as the macho man party. We're strong. We're tough on defense. Meanwhile, they're clapping because they're scared little punk bitches. Look at them. Jihadists. Protect us from the big bad jihadists.